right. So we are live. Welcome everyone to the InnerStrength Empowerment Hour, episode 40. I'm Laura DePietro stand-in, and these are my amazing success coaches for my Plant Power Revolution program, Joanne Nagel and LT, Lori Taylor. So thank you to everyone who's joining us. Sorry I was running a little bit late. We're having technical difficulties on my end, but we're good now. So today we are going to be talking about going into this time of year, and really a lot of people, this is what they call this is the second new year. It's a time when you can really make a fresh start. And it feels especially poignant for a lot of us because our kids haven't been really in school for the past year because of COVID. So there's a lot of changes. And so we wanted to talk today about how to navigate this time of year in general, and then also, how it's different from, years past, because, a lot of people are really excited that their kids are actually out of the house. And I know my son actually just started today. He was supposed to start yesterday, and they pushed it back to today. And so he was not a fan of, to be honest, he's not a fan of online schooling or in-person schooling, but if we're just being perfectly real about it, he's 17. So he's like, yeah, I'm over it. But I know that, a lot of kids are excited to go back and see their friends in person.
Mm-hmm. So this is his, so it will have a different tone to it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So any questions or comments that you guys have, please make sure that you make those. I'll be looking at Facebook either as we do the replay and of course now in the live. So how in years past, did you feel like that this was sort of a renewal, a second, new year, or was it just kind of more of the same as you went into the fall?
I always looked forward to the fall. I was always done with summer by the time summer was rounding out.
Right. Yeah. Like I always felt like I was really excited for my kids to be home for the summer, and always really excited for them to go back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It is. It's just a different vibe, but both of them are good. But I think I always definitely look forward to the fall.
I did too. And I considered my calendar to start at this time. I kind of changed my calendar kind of looked like the school year calendar.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So were both of you guys, did you change your schedule typically in the past to, was there a big schedule change between the school year and the summer?
I think for us there is. Yeah, because
did you plan for it?
I don't really plan for anything, to be honest. So that's kind of how I roll. But when in the summer, we are very, very loosey-goosey around here. And we always have been, because I was a teacher, but I'm also of the mindset that there's just a lot of school. And so when it's your summer break, you should just really focus on relaxing and enjoying life and not being so structured. So, and sometimes that can get a little crazy because I can err on the side of too much loosey-goosey. So yeah, I kind of do plan a little bit to be more structured in the fall, but a little.
And I was more structured in the fall because being volunteer things that I did, it was always centered around the type school. And the summer was always loose for us too, because we were always typically going somewhere. It was, and then that changed. So we just done little things, around here this past summer and last summer. So we really didn't go anywhere big. And normally that's something that we're used to. So the school year was always a time to get grounded and have the real structure in place with the schedule. But I will say in my former life, my eating schedule didn't change because I was still eating what I was wanting to eat and doing what I wanted to do. But now that I've done this program, I'm very structured on what I do. And it's going to look the same whether it's summer, spring, summer, or fall, because I have a structure.
Right. Yeah, I never, before, I guess I was more like Joanne. I never really, my schedule didn't my schedule changed, but I didn't plan for it. I was just sort of like, oh, this is the last day of school. And then, I didn't really have a specific plan. And I was very much just like, yeah, we're going to relax. But, then as the summer drug on, the kids are, up till 6 a.m. and sleep until 2
Yep.
p.m. Things could just get crazier and crazier. And so then I would, come up with chores for them to do and, things to keep them busy during the summer, to make sure that they didn't, completely become feral. So before the school year started again. So, but other than that, I, like you're saying, LT, in terms of my eating and things like that, nothing changed, for me in terms of preparation, except for, keeping more snacks and things in the house because the kids were
Yeah.
home, which is never a good thing. As you're just having more opportunities to eat the things you're not, that aren't good for you.
Yeah.
But what I hear this time of year right now, especially, I hear a lot of women saying that they have a lot of anxiety. And what is it that you think? Because I know that, like Gina said, where she's looking forward to fall. And I am too. I'm a fall girl. And, here in Ohio, it's all, fall is football and, campfires and, going into Halloween and all of these things, like with, apple picking and all of that. And so it's most of us, it's our favorite time of year. But I'm hearing a lot of women saying that they're really anxious right now. So what do you guys think in terms of why women can feel off balance right now?
Well, I think any kind of a transition is very difficult, whether like from back when I was a teacher, I remember when I was in school to become a teacher, one of the big things that they taught us was you have to watch out for the transition period, like the transition times, because that will make or break your day. And they were absolutely right. Whether it was from we're doing calendar, we're all sitting on the rug, and now we're going to move to our desks. Like that transition can throw you off. Well, as an adult, those same things happen. And if you're moving from, you're going to work every day and your kids are just kind of hanging out at home to now all of a sudden you have to take them to school, you have to get them to the bus stop, you have to either pack lunches or make sure their, lunch cart is all like, filled up with the school. And there's all that technical stuff with the school, the papers, the getting them to the doctor, getting them to the dentist, getting them to the eye appointment. I think it's just a lot of stuff that comes in like this little 3-week period that can completely like derail you.
Yeah.
And I think too, it's the time that we're living in right now and the mixed messages we're getting from media, and we're all kind of holding our breath on this Delta variant, hoping, we're moving forward and things are moving forward, but then we don't want it to be taken back and these kids be sent home again.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think that's the anxiety of the what if.
Right. And that Tammy just commented that she said maybe the anxiety is coming from COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I think there's that, like you said, LT, like you don't really know what's going to happen from here. And it's interesting though, because I find that, like my son doesn't seem to be worried about that at all. So he's not thinking that way. And I wonder if, I think that we underestimate how, when we get really anxious about these things, how it affects our kids, because it colors how they look at everything. Our kids are not just parroting what we say. They will also mimic how we feel and our view on things. I remember being at a public pool years ago, and there was an 8-year-old kid who made a comment about, and this is how long ago it was, because it was Romney and Obama were running for president. And he made some kind of comment, well, that all that Romney wants is blah, blah, blah. And it was hilarious because he was 8 years old and he was talking to another 8-year-old kid. And I thought, what do these kids know about politics? This is ridiculous. I was cracking up. But they're parroting what their parents are saying at that point, right? They don't really know. They're just, it's just repeating. But I think that the views on life come from us. And so if we're really anxious and, we're, you know, worried that something else bad is going to happen, that we can really pass that on, that we can pass that anxiety on to them.
Yeah, I'm trying to be calm with my two. They're in both unique stations of life because one has just started her very first semester of college and one is about to have his very last semester. So I got one at the first, one at the end. And so I think I probably have said more than one time, oh my gosh, y'all kids can't be coming back home again. So they probably are hearing that because, when you're at the end, that's an exciting time. And when your graduation is right there, that's exciting. And then when you're at the beginning, that's another exciting time. So both of them would be crushed, if it had. And I think that they heard me say that too, but I am trying to be more calm and just say, maybe it's just the masks. Maybe that's not going to be a school shutdown. Maybe it's just going to be some little things that you have to do different because they're definitely masks are all back on.
Oh, definitely. And Molly, who is a teacher, says it's more than just transition from summer to school, new teachers, new classrooms, new routines after getting used to the previous ones. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And for us too, right? Like I remember when my son, I have 3 kids. So when all my kids, when they go from, either when they go to middle school or they go to high school and suddenly they're in all these different classrooms.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like trying to help them navigate the new high school or whatever. And like, okay, so according to your schedule, we would always walk the schedule so they would know where their room was because you've got like 2 minutes to get there, right? So I'm sure I was way more nervous about it than they were.
Growing up in a small town in Georgia, and I was in a public high school, but I'm public everything, but the middle school was all girls, and that was public. So that was a huge transition to go to high school now and be with boys again because we hadn't seen boys much, in the 6th grade, and you've changed a lot.
Yeah,
that was nerve-wracking.
I'm sure they were shocked. Yeah, I mean, I was, I grew up in a really small town, and my graduating class was like 99 people, and my high school was really small, so it wasn't a big deal to try to find. It was basically a square, and there wasn't a big deal to try to find the different classrooms that you were looking for. But my kids all went to bigger high schools, like thousands of people, so it was more overwhelming to me than it probably was to them. I was like always really worried, like, okay, well, you only have 2 minutes, and I know all my kids are like, I got it, mom. So.
With lots of bathroom and all that. It's a quick transition.
So I know that, but just like you guys mentioned, so your guys' schedules are a little bit different because LT, you're technically an empty nester now.
Right.
Your youngest is moved on to college, and Joanne, you still are in the thick of it with 2 teens in high school. So how are each of you planning ahead now in terms of meals and physical activity and you time?
Well, we have been home. We've had summer basically since March of 2020 because my kids never went back. We have been home for the entire time. So this week has been very, very, very stressful. Plus we had a funeral and we had basically a tornado and 2 trees down in our yard. So the stress in this house right now, if you could just cut it with a knife, honestly. And so I was looking forward to, I want to get back on better eating for the whole family because I was eating well myself, but for them, I'm like, whatever, just do what you want for the summer because it was just, everybody was at the end of their rope after having been home all that time. So looking forward, I really feel like everybody in the house is ready to get on a better schedule. And for me, that means getting back on a regular exercise schedule because for the last year and a half, I've just kind of been like fitting it in where I could. And sometimes that did go by the wayside. And I know now that I don't feel my best when I don't get out and do a run or get out and take a walk or do something. So I think planning ahead with meals is another thing. Yesterday I made a big pot of soup. I'm getting ready to, start my bigger batch cooking. cooking again, which I wasn't doing so much batch cooking in the summer. But now I'm like, we're doing it. We're doing the big batch cooking because when they walk in the door, even though it's 3:30, they're ready for dinner. Like
Oh yeah.
they're starving. My daughter's lunch is at 10 a.m. So she walks in the door at 3:30. She's starving. So I need to be like, have the meals ready. We don't have time to waste. So those are kind of the things that I need to get in place so that we can have a smooth school year.
Right.
Finally.
Yeah. What about you, LT?
Mine's not going to look too much differently. I still do my meal service, which I get you Plant Powered Chef, and I also get from one other one. And so that structure has really helped me stay the course all this time because I'm very structured in knowing what I'm going to get. And I already, have what I'm doing for breakfast and lunch. I already have snacks. And, the difference is that I've just made 100% commitment that that's what it's going to be. That's what I'm going to do. I don't waffle. I don't waver. I don't second guess. I don't say, well, maybe. I've just decided this is how I feel best. This is how I look best. This is what's going on. I prioritize that exercise. And, nobody took that away from me before with the schedule. So it will certainly remain in place. I think the only thing that's going to be a little bit different is my husband and I can now be more spontaneous about going places and picking up and going, and because you don't have to make a provision for somebody. I anticipate that I'm so locked into a routine that I'm going to keep it up with my exercise and my eating habits, because I'm not going to just go somewhere and just absolutely fall off the wagon and start back over, because I know how that would feel. And I'm committed to being to the way that I am right now. So I'm going to just keep on the path. And it's easy to do because a lot of places you go have these exercise places and walking outside and, ordering a certain way. And the thing that's going to get me is I'm not going to be surprised by anything, because I'm going to look ahead to where I'm going and already have a plan. If I'm going out to eat, I'm not going to sit down at a table and say, wonder what they have. I'm already going to they have, and I already know what I'm going to get before I sit down.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we always talk about in the group is when before you go somewhere, to just quickly look up the menu so that you know what you're going to get, what you can get. If you look at the menu and you think like this is going to be a disaster, you just pick someplace else.
Pick somewhere and do it ahead of time, and don't be sitting at that table going, gosh, why did we come here? And look, here's the bread. Those yeast rolls look good. I mean, don't put yourself in that position. Just navigate it a little bit.
Right. Yeah. I think that's, the biggest issue that I see with most of the women that we work with is they're not living intentionally. They're just kind of letting life come at them all the time.
Right.
They'll say things to me like, my biggest problem is dinner. That's where I always screw up, and so it's always been that way. And I'll say, okay, dinner has been coming every year of your life, every day of your life. So why are you not actually sitting down trying to figure out why this is a problem? It's a pothole that you need to navigate around, and you can. But not if you never sit down and really think about it. If you're just every day, you're just hitting that pothole full speed.
Yeah, so, I think people severely underestimate their power of choice. I know that I did, and it's exactly like what you said. It happens to you instead of you creating the path that you take. And that makes all the difference in the world, because then you feel like I really am in control, and I really can turn away from some that really aren't good for me. And it's not that I'm getting this second-rate best stuff. I'm still getting great stuff.
Yeah. Right.
Shift in thinking. And yes, you may have to plan a little bit more, because we were so used to having quick, easy, convenient, drive through, order it, blah, blah, blah. You do a little bit of planning, but it's not just not doable.
It's all what you get used to. I tell people that all the time. It really, everything is whatever you get used to, and you can get used to doing things in a cleaner, healthier way. And so but before we talk about like the real time savers, what obstacles, because you brought that up, not letting things become an obstacle. What obstacles do you think women are facing, or are you facing as you go into this time of year?
Well, I think I'm facing my kids' anxiety because that's, we talk a lot in the group about controlling what we can control. And at this point, some of us have learned that when you set the tone, you can kind of set the tone for everything. And when you feel in control of yourself, you feel in control of everything. But because of the time we're in right now with the uncertainty, like LT said, with the variant, we don't know what's going to happen next week. My kids are really struggling with anxiety, like to the extreme. So that's going to be one of my major obstacles going into this fall, which it kind of has been all during COVID. It's definitely ramped up, but this week I can already tell like the structure at school with the one-way hallways and yesterday they walked their schedule, so they already knew that. Ella somehow could not find her Spanish class and was walking, and it was like the bell was ringing or whatever. She walked past the room and there was a teacher at the next door, and the teacher kind of reached out and said, where are you looking for? Where can I help you get? And she said like room 257, and the teacher goes, oh, it's right there. The room next door. She had just walked past it. And so she goes, just go ahead. She was supposed to be going the one way, but the room was next door by one room. And this teacher had said, just go ahead, just run in. She got to the door and the teacher goes, you can't come this way. And the teacher literally made her walk around the whole, and it's the whole top floor of the school. So she had to walk the whole thing again to get in the room. So, that for her, for somebody with severe anxiety and social anxiety, to walk into a classroom late, walk into a classroom out of breath and embarrassed, and now the teacher, you got off to a bad start with the teacher. So like, those are the kind of things that I'm dealing with when they get home. And that 3:30 to 5:30 when it's dinner time, it's kind of like meltdown time all over again. So that's going to be an obstacle for me. And I would imagine that's going to be an obstacle for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Molly says, I function better with routine, and as stressful as going back to school will be, I'm looking forward to us all being on a similar schedule. So at least there's that. But yeah, I know that's always been the time when, my kids always had two times when they want to talk to me, which is right after school. They'd be willing to spill their guts about something.
Yeah.
And 1 a.m.
Yes. Always 1 a.m.
That's all. Yeah. Those are the two. And when you have teenagers, it's like, that is the time you just have to put up with it, or they're not going to talk to you. Like but yeah, I think that is the obstacle, is setting the tone for kids to help them look at the big picture. And you set the tone in terms of, hey, it's going to be okay. And we're going to navigate through this. And, what help do you need? Because obviously, as our kids get older, it's not just stepping in and fixing it. Sometimes they don't want you to fix it. They just want to talk about it. And so, figuring out our role in that, but also, helping them to realize that this stuff is not the end of the world. And that's, I really think that they take a lot of how they feel about things from how we react.
Yep.
Like, when I feel myself getting my fur up or really upset about something, that will upset my kids, whether they feel the same way as I do or not. It's just spewing stress out. And so, yeah, this is, with COVID, it's not just your normal school stuff. Right. It's your normal school stuff plus all these restrictions and changes and all of this stuff. But hopefully not as ridiculous as last year, where it's like you're at school one day, you're at home the next, the cohorts and the
right.
Yeah. Emily says, mine starts middle school and I'm not ready for this milestone. Yeah. So that's another thing is, now I know for me, I see a lot of this on Facebook where, And I felt the same way as my kids started middle school, or they started, they start kindergarten, and then, it's all these milestones, and then they start high school. They graduate from high school, and then if you become an empty nester, like all of these are emotional things for moms. And I actually talked to a mom yesterday, and she was having a lot of anxiety. She has a little one, and she was having a lot of anxiety because she had her daughter in a like a daycare type of program for the summer, and she was getting sick a lot, just with the colds and the flu and these, because that's what happens when your kids are around other kids. I mean, we all know how that goes. But she was having so much anxiety about that, and that she was causing anxiety then for her daughter, because she was like, they would be praying at the dinner table before, having their meal, and she would be saying, like, out loud, like, protect her, and and it's making the daughter feel like, she's under siege. And so there's so many things like that, but it's stressing. It's, these different milestones that can stress us out because we don't have control over what's happening. So I know, how are you feeling about that, LT, with being an empty nester? Because I know for me, I knew it was coming. So my son is 17, and he moved in with his dad to be closer to his friends a couple of years ago. And that was devastating for me. I was not ready for that. And it was, it was really hard for me, because I have been a full-time parent since I was 21. So that's 30 years. And I just wasn't ready. It's not like he wasn't graduating from high school yet. So I wasn't like, oh, I see this coming. Like it was a surprise. So it was really hard for me to sort of realize then, like, okay, well, now I'm an empty nester, and I better. So for me, the key was filling up my time so that I didn't feel like the nest was empty. Like I fill up the nest with the things that I want to do. But how are you feeling about that, since it just happened?
Yeah, I'm just a week into it so far, and it hadn't even really sunk in because I'm not really back at my real house yet. But I think that I had already started the transition of doing things that really were bringing me meaning and joy that I in this last year. And I've kind of just gotten to an age at 51 where a lot of the tough stuff is falling off, because I'm really doing things intentionally now. And that did start with this program that I was on, that I've been on with you now a year and a half. And that's why I say I'm always grateful to you, because I really feel like I found myself through this. I had finally addressed the problem of food addiction, which I had been in denial about for so long. And then when that was addressed, I started seeing things a lot more clearly in a lot of and have worked on myself for a year and a half. So I have already set up my day of things that I really want to do, and groups that I want to be in, and friends that I want to be in. And I had already started that structure, and some things have fallen by the wayside because of that structure, but I'm doing things that I want to do. I feel meaningful to me, that I feel that have purpose, because it's a stage of life, and I'm excited about this stage of life,
Right.
and I don't lament a lot, because I had a lot of empty time before, or either doing something that I really didn't want to do and I felt pressured, or I felt strong armed to do. And setting boundaries, as we talk about in our program, and making yourself a priority, it makes things a lot easier to say no.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's sort of like everything else when we talk about intentional living, that a lot of women, go into that, empty nest situation without thinking ahead of time how it's going to impact them and what they're going to do to fill up their time. It just sort of happens to them. I saw in our local Facebook forum here for just our local community, somebody wanted to start an empty nesters support group. And I thought that was really sad. I was just like, you've got to move on.
Yeah.
You have to move on, and you can move on. and it can be great. This is
Sure.
just another.
Yeah, there's all kinds of meaningful things to get involved with. And that's why you have to do some self-reflection of what and what you really feel that you have to offer and to give to somebody else, because there is an organization who needs somebody like you, whether it's a job paying type job or a volunteer or a community event. People love skills and for you to impart your knowledge and to be a helpmate to that organization. And I don't think there's a lack of them.
Yeah. I think that women also, though, and this could be a whole other show, which I should write down, because I'm always saying every time that I say this should be a whole other show, and then after the show, I'm like, what was I saying that about? But it really is about, how I feel like, in this society, after a certain age, there's a lot of ageism. And we feel that. I've joked around about AARP and things like, when you're 49, they start sending you the stuff, and you're about funeral planning and estate planning and buy more Medicare and all of these things. And it makes you feel old. It makes you feel like you don't have a lot of life left, and that's just not true. It's just not, especially if you're healthy. And that is what we see, that revitalization in our group of people. Like, not only am I, is this, I'm going into this time of life that I'm healthy now. And so it's just opened up like all the possibilities.
I feel like at 51 now than I've probably ever felt in my life, because I don't feel like I have any limitations. I really do like that life is ready for me to grab, and it's whatever I want to do. And I'm not going to be told physically no on anything, because I really can step up on everything that I want to do.
Right.
I'm not an Olympic athlete, of course, but I can do anything that I want to do.
Right.
And that's maneuvering through this life, doing exercise classes, picking up cases of water. I'm just like, rah, rah. I don't even think about it.
Right.
It's easy. And I know it helps to have 90 pounds off of you, I'll tell you that. And it also helps just to have a clear way of thinking about how you want to be.
Right.
And not having these foods control you with being your coping mechanism.
Yes.
And to trails. And that's another thing that has been eliminated from my life. I don't go down anymore.
Right. Gina says, I'm an empty nester too. I feel that I have so much more time for myself. It is a good feeling. I'm the type of person who always takes care of everyone else before myself. I'm doing so good because I'm in your group and I've grown so much, and I'm still growing. I have a better mindset and I have set boundaries.
Yeah.
And Emily says, off topic, but I really need new work clothes. Yeah, so I know for me, it's really been throwing myself into my career, into work, which I love. And it's given me more freedom to do that and to be more creative. Now that I had that time, and I planned for it. I knew that he was going to be leaving, and I planned. There was a course I wanted to take, and some things I wanted to do, and I planned it so that, because he left during the holidays too, which was just awful. And he and I have a great relationship now, so it's not anything about that, but it was just not having him here, just in the house all the time. That was just that was so hard. I was prepared for that with my girls, because they left at the appointed time. They're 18, they're ready to move on, and but yeah. So I think that this does derail a lot of women, and it's something that we have to think about and plan for, like you said. And I know, Joanne, you're looking forward to it because you are planning for it. You're always like, hey,
I got so many plans.
years.
You guys might never see me again. I got so many plans. Yeah. I'm actually really excited. Like, long term, in 2 years when they graduate, I'm really excited about that, because we're going to be moving out of state. That's going to be a huge transition that I'm actually looking forward to. But even just the start of the school year, I'm putting some things in place that I'm looking forward to, because like LT said, now that I'm physically able to do these things, it's become really fun for me to challenge myself. Whereas before, I would just lament the fact that I just physically couldn't even get out of a chair most days. And now that I have no limitations, I'm like, well, what can I do next? You know, what can I sign up for? Can I do a 5K?
Mhm.
Can I do a 10K? One of the exciting things that I'm looking forward to is we just booked a vacation for spring break for Florida, and I'm going to take surfing lessons. So I got online and I found like there's core muscle training that you can do and
Yeah,
weightlifting to be a surfer. So like I'm going to use this next few months before spring break to like get my body in shape so that I can actually stand up on a surfboard. Maybe.
yeah, that's
So
exciting. And
yeah.
yoga too. Do yoga too for balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
doing this week every morning. I've already done it this morning. Paddle boarding here on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
A lot
Has
of
those
core work.
The lake is like glass in the early morning, so it's
Mm.
easier. But it's something that I've really enjoyed and always wanted to do when I was down here, but never have done. So now that is another something that I'm enjoying. And there's all kinds of little paddleboarding clubs around the lake.
Mm-hmm.
That's my next thing where I want to do this with other people is a little group where we meet up. So, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to, because one day we're going to transition to move here sooner rather than later. So that's going to be another fun something to look forward to too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Emily says yes. Joanne, also do upper body weights and swim as much as you can. And Tammy would like to know where you're moving.
Tammy, I'm moving to the beach, and you know that. I'm going to the beach, and that's where you'll find me.
Setting
Going to
up shop.
Florida. Well,
Yep.
never mind. I'm not even going to say anything. But if Florida can get its act together, I will move there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But yeah, some beach somewhere, right?
Some
That's
beach
right.
somewhere. That's where I'll be with my little umbrella and my coconut drink and
That's right.
my
And I'll be
my surfboard.
there. I'll be moving somewhere near Auburn, which is near in the Lake Martin area, and I'll be at near the plains, the home of Tigers, War Eagle. So that's going to be a fun trip for us, and that's near my hometown, which I do feel a pull with my mother getting older, and I just feel like that I would like to be closer in with her. So I think that it's just something to look forward to. We're excited about it. It's not a dread. It's an
Mm-hmm.
excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think as long as we look at it, it also that's again takes less pressure. It takes the pressure off your kids because they cannot. I talk to grown women whose moms are still making them the center of their life and
Yeah.
throwing these guilt trips on them all the time, like, you know,
Mhm.
about coming over every day and talking on the phone twice a day at certain times and all these things. And I'm just like, it's not right for us to, you know, make our kids feel like they are our whole lives and we don't have anything else going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel good for us either.
Mm-hmm.
She's excited about us coming. She would never put any pressure on us at all. And
Oh yeah, we've met your mom. Your mom's awesome.
yeah, we would still be a little over an hour away, but I
Yeah.
know that she's excited about us being kind of more in this area. And
Yeah.
and exciting for us because we love her so much. We want to include her on things.
Right.
She's a big part of our lives, and she's the only one we have left. You know, his parents are gone and my dad is gone. We've got the one grand. That's what we've
Yep.
got. Want to
Yep.
take care.
And yep, cherish the time that you have left.
Mm-hmm.
So practical, when we speak practically though, there's a lot of things that we can do time saving wise, especially with meals. And you know, that's where people really get tripped up and start going through the drive through all the time. I know for me, you, all three of us have a different way of doing this,
Yeah.
which is great. This is a great conversation because I'm very much an on the fly girl. I do not, I don't batch cook ever. I've never batch cooked in my whole life, actually. And I haven't, I really haven't. And I don't, even though, so we have the Plant Powered Chef, which is the delivery service, but I actually, my whole life, or, since I started doing this, I just keep my kitchen stocked a certain way so that I can be in the kitchen for 15, 20 minutes, make a great meal and be done with it because I don't like to spend a lot of time in the kitchen. So what I do in the program, my role is teaching women how to stock their kitchen so they can do that. And they can walk in and see the components, make a quick meal and be done with it. Even if that includes their their families who may or may not be plant-based. We have a whole guide in the group centered around helping you to make meals that everyone can eat. You know, these are like component meals, and that can be really easy to do. So as long as you have certain components in your house, then you can eat that way. And it's just easy if you're not a planner like me. So what I do is I keep a running list on the fridge. And as I run low on these staple items that I always keep, which are, I've put this list out many times in the group. It's like I do frozen organic vegetables, canned organic beans. I always have some kind of tofu or tempeh or something like that on hand, lots of sweet potatoes, onions, things like fresher things like tomatoes and carrots and greens. I have frozen organic fruit. So I always have the, rice and quinoa and oats, things on hand, nuts and seeds to make a meal. And that's the way that I roll. And so instead of thinking of it like, I went tofu today, I'll just think like, I'm in the mood for something Asian today. And then I go into the kitchen and I can just pull these components together and I can flavor things in that type of way. And it's usually Mexican. So every day I'm like, oh, let's grab the cumin. So, that's how I roll. And so the thing that makes it, I think if you're, going to the grocery store all the time, that the people who are using like Instacart and stuff like that, that either where they can just go in and, someone will basically bring your groceries out to your car, and especially with COVID restrictions ramping back up, that might be, people were doing that a lot last year. So that's one thing that you can do to save time. And that's, to make your life easier is, click on that list and then you just go pick it up. And some of them will even deliver it to your house. So I know that there are ways to save time with that. And so what about, I know though that you, Joanne, you're the big batch cooker, like you mentioned. So tell us how that works in what your week looks like because of that and how that saves you time.
Well, for me, I'm like you, where I don't like to eat the same meal all the time, but I know that my kids are like a little bit extra needy at certain times of the day. And that always falls at mealtime, because when they're hungry and when it's that time of the day, like that's just when we all kind of, lose it. So having those things in place saves me sanity, and it saves me time that I can spend with them, helping them get through whatever it is instead of cooking. So for me, it looks like having those same things on hand: rice, quinoa, tofu, frozen vegetables, all those things. But they're like, I take it just one step further and they're already done. So like I make a big thing of rice and I can freeze it. And then I can just pull it out if we feel like this, that, or the other thing. And I make sauces ahead of time too. So you have some sauces in your book that are really delicious. And for the massage kale salad, like I like to make that sort of dressing in a bigger volume so we can put it on other things because it's so yummy. And like the Asian sauce, the Asian marinade. So I just keep those things in a jar in the fridge so that I can pull out the frozen vegetables, whip them up, or just pull out the rice, pull out the tofu bites that I've already baked a couple of cookie sheets full, because you can freeze those too. Right. And I actually freeze tofu taco crumbles. So you just crumble your tofu and you make it like taco meat. And then with all your dry seasonings, and you saute it in your pan. And then the last step is to put the salsa in and stir it around and serve it up. Well, I leave that last step off and I just cook it with the spices on, and then I freeze it in big double batches. So then when it's dinner time, I just pull that out, pop the salsa in to warm it up, and we have taco night or we have burrito night or whatever. So those are the little things that I do that they're not like full-blown meal prep. They're just having the things, but one step further than stocked pantry. It's stocked refrigerator, like already done kind of thing.
Yeah. How long do you do that every week, and how long does it take you?
I kind of do it like sporadically, but I make a couple of things at a time when I'm already in the kitchen. So I don't plan like, because I'm not a structured person. So it's not like every Sunday I plan from 12 to 3 to be in the kitchen. I don't do that. It's like when I have a Friday night and nobody needs anything, I might go in the kitchen and cook up a double batch of tofu, or, you know, and then I hear from the kids, are you making tofu again? They hate tofu. My kids won't eat it, but they smell it when I'm baking it. And they're like, Mommy's making tofu again. Gross. You know, I get all the emojis on my phone, like they hate it. But so I'll do it here and there when I feel like it, because I really like being in the kitchen, and that's my therapy. So I'll just turn on the music and I'll just be like, I'm cooking till midnight. I mean, I do it at weird times, but that's what I like to do when everybody else is leaving me alone. So yeah, I don't have a structure of when I do it. I just know that the result of it has really saved my sanity.
Right. Totally. I could see that. And we have, for people who don't know, a batch cooking plan. So if you go to my website, and you can buy my book, because it goes along with the book, but there are also recipes in the batch cooking plan that Joanne has come up with. All of these different, there's something like 30 some combinations for batch cooking in there. And it's free to everyone in our program. But you can purchase it too, as you know, in addition to the book on the website.
Mm-hmm. And they're really delicious, because I've made them myself, and I'm kind of a picky eater when it comes to, like, I want things to taste good. So these are all things that I've just like, hey, what if I threw this in here? I wonder how that would taste. And sometimes it's magic and sometimes it's not, but the magical ones are the ones we've put into the batch thing.
Right. And I mean, it's really it's a great plan. It's a great jumping off point too, if you've never done batch cooking before, because like Joanne said, like I mean, I always think of it like you take a whole Sunday and do your batch cooking, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can just make more of certain things here and there, and it's really so much easier. So the batch cooking plan can really help you with that. So that's on the website. But in LT, you do it differently, because you do a combination of cooking and you get meals sent to your home. So tell me what that looks like for you.
Yeah, I always make sure that I have things stocked for breakfast and lunch. I'm, kind of don't eat as much in the morning. And then for lunch, it's, either a smoothie or some type of sweet potatoes or beans or a wrap or something. So I always have things on hand that I can throw something together quickly for that. But for dinner, it's a little bit different. I wanted something just already, like, that was a real meal already ready. And so anything that I can do that's 30 minutes or less with a meal prep that's vegan, gluten-free, and of course the plant-powered chef makes it just super easy, because he's already done all the work. You just heat that one up, not even any prep. And so that's what I really love, is heat and serve type meals that I know are going to be vegan and gluten-free, taste good, filling. The family all ate it. I like to have, now it's just going to be the two of us eating, so that's going to be fine. But I mean, with the four of us before eating, they all liked it. Nobody ever complained or said I didn't want this. They didn't even know the difference. I didn't tell them. I didn't make a big thing of, oh, really isn't a rib. This is really some kind of a conclusion Chef John came up with. I don't make a banner about it. They just want it to taste good, and it fills them up. And my husband has liked everything that I've ever fixed, but he's a complainer anyway. He's like most men, as we've talked about. He just wants it to taste good, and he wants to be full after he's, and then you have no complaints normally from most men if they have it that way. So I really love the variety of the plant-powered chef, because y'all change the menu out every week. And so, that just is always keeping something a little bit different. When I was in my old life, oh my gosh, I was in such a rut. We had the same kind of stuff all the time. About 5 different things that I would rotate. You talking about your spaghetti and your poppy seed chicken casserole and blah, 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 Southern type cooking, but it was the same thing. So I will say with certainty that I have eaten more variety being on the and than I ever ate before.
Right. Absolutely. I feel the same way. We used to have, I had certain things that I would make, in my former life when I was, real heavy and sick, and my whole, my family loved them, obviously. But, I would much rather pass on healthy habits to my kids than recipes that will keep them fat and sick for their whole lives.
That's
So, and
I really wanted something different, and I'm doing something different. And that's I'm getting better results, good results, because I did something different. If I were still doing the same thing, I would still be in that same mess
Right.
that
That's
Yeah.
where I do not want to be.
And that's the Albert Einstein quote, right? Is
Yeah,
insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over
that's
again,
right.
expecting different results.
That's
So
Right.
right.
yeah. So yeah, we all have different ways of doing things, then we can all make this work. And so we have women in our group even who we have a realtor in our group that we actually had on the show, Nancy, who
Mhm.
she eats out a lot because of her profession.
Client.
And she's still with clients, right? So she is, this is Stevie running in here for some reason. She still has lost 50 pounds on the plan. And so this is something you can even incorporate if you're eating out as well. So it's easy to do. And I think, I think a lot of women just overthink it, that
Yeah.
they think it's going to cause more problems than it actually does.
And there's more options than what you really think are available. And there's other places that cater to this type of eating. Plus, like we always say, even if you're a traditional steakhouse type place, there's always the sides menu. So it's just a different way of looking at it. But the
Right.
option there, it's a lot more than what you talked about when you first started.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. When I first started, it was there was hardly anything, so now
Right.
that's been 16 years. And so if
Right.
I can do it, believe me, back then anyone can do it now. That's for
Mhm.
sure.
Right.
So what, for you guys, how are you incorporating, what does it mean to incorporate you time to keep yourself balanced as we go into this into this time of year? Because I know for me, I find that if I'm too busy,
Mm-hmm.
it's no good. And if I'm not busy enough, that's no good too. So
Mm-hmm.
like I'm always kind of trying to find that sweet spot. And a lot of that has to do with how much I'm practicing self-care. And so what is that looking like
Mhm.
for you guys right now, or as we move into this time of year?
Well, definitely, I can say that I have felt since we've all been home from COVID that my self care has definitely gone on the downward, time wise that I spend. Not that I don't do it, but I'm definitely not doing it as much as I was pre COVID, just
Yeah.
because everybody's home and it's just there's just too much activity always around for me to do the things that I was doing. Like, my routine before was I would every day when I would take a shower, I would turn on my meditation on a Bluetooth speaker in the bathroom. And it was loud and it was, like I can't do that when people are on Zoom classes in the house, or I can't, there's certain things I can't do anymore that I was used to doing. And so it's been tricky. So what I'm looking forward to and what it's going to look like now is I'm going to be able to do audiobooks again, because that was another thing. While I was cleaning the house, I used to put an audiobook on. And while I'm doing the things I have to be doing, I'm also switching gears in my brain. And I think that's really important, because when you're in this stage of life, and especially during COVID, when we've all been like, it's all been in the front of our minds, giving your brain a break and thinking about something completely unrelated, it feels really good, and it can just give you that reset. And I haven't been able to do that in a long time because everybody's always here all the time.
Right.
And so I'm really looking forward to doing those things again, getting my regular run schedule, getting my meditations back in again, being able to let my brain shift gears and do something different.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What about, do you have ideas there too, Elsie?
Mine's a little bit different because I'm considering COVID was a gift to me as far as changing my whole way of thinking and doing things. And I just got really honed in during that time, and my self care became more important than ever. And I was more committed to it than ever. So it's always going to look like I'm an early riser. It's always going to have some sort of a gratitude journal and a meditation. It's always going to have an exercise component to it. And now I've joined a little something different in Mobile too that I'm doing in addition, just because I love the structure of this class and these women that I'm with. And that's a little strength training that I'm doing in addition to my cardio that I'm already doing, you know, and I still am a girly girl and like to get my massages and manicures and pedicures and all that kind of thing. But that's just not part of my self-care, is that I'm learning and teaching and getting to work with these women that you've given me the opportunity to do. And that's been another thing that I've enjoyed doing, because that's meaningful to me and that's shows the purpose to me. And I'm an only child, so I really do like alone time. So as long as I can balance my alone time, but then I'm an extrovert, so I like my group time too. So I make sure that I have a balance of both. And when I have my alone centered time and my heart pumping exercise time and my group time, that's where I'm always at my sweet spot. And eating this way has made me be able to do it at my best at all levels.
Right. Yeah, for me, it's been I do my week and my day in chunks. So because I run, my day is structured pre-run and post-run. And that actually helps me manage my day as someone who's working from home. And you know, so that's also helps me manage my week. It makes things seem less overwhelming when you can chunk them. You know, that's no matter what you're doing. And you know, even with you know, my son has ADD, and one of the things we talked about was with chunking. You know, because you know, you're looking down the barrel of your week, and it can seem really overwhelming. So when you're putting things into chunks, which is, you know, what I do with my running, that helps me. And then also, like you said, things like, you know, journaling or meditation, those times when you really get to just be with yourself and your own thoughts and not have to have somebody pulling at you or specifically thinking about a certain thing. I love to listen to music on my runs. I have my favorite music that I listen to, but there are times of year when I don't listen to anything and I just run, because my brain can just be on stream of consciousness, and I don't have to think about anything. I can just, and I don't have to listen to anything. I just can be. And so, or in the car, I just won't listen to any music at all. Like, I'll just have my quiet time. So there's definitely whatever resonates with you, you know, to make you feel more centered. And I think that the biggest problem that women have is they feel guilty about taking that time. And they feel, and even their families can get used to them not taking that time. And then their families make them feel guilty about taking that time. And so, you know, if you're out there listening to this and you're feeling that way, you have absolutely the right and the responsibility to take that time, because that is for you. And it makes not only your life better, but that is just going to help you cope better with everything.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise you're going to be, you know, going into transition times like we all do, where you're like getting out of the car and then you know, immediately go in and binge on crackers and cookies in the kitchen, because you don't have the right coping mechanisms to handle your life. And so it's just so important to take this time for yourself, and it's your mental health and your physical health. Gina says, LT, I was like you during COVID. I educated myself and decided to be positive and do self-care. And she also said, Joanne, she loves audiobooks. That's the other thing, is I started listening to audiobooks when I had never done that before. But because I'm online all the time with my business, it gets fatiguing to my eyes to then go into a whole, you know, evening of reading. And so audiobooks have been great. And so there's just so many ways to get this done. You know, you just have to but you have to take the time to sit down and get creative with it. And really not just, you know, like we said, like you just hit it going a million hours like another pothole. And, you know, you really have to intentionally live.
You have to really figure out what really lights you up. You know, we all have different, your eyes get that little spark about it, or it makes have an excitement, and it's going to take a time of, you know, a few little minutes here to figure that out. And once you figure it out, then you pursue that and you find ways to make that happen in your life, as small or as big as it can, but and just etch away at it. And that's how you build a life.
That's
Mhm.
right.
And you got to slow down enough to really think about what that is. I've talked to a lot of ladies lately who, we're just all being swung around, and it doesn't have to be that way, because then you don't even know what fills your cup. And
You
I
don't.
was talking to someone the other day, and she's joined this group, and she's meeting with these friends for lunch and doing this and doing that. And I was just listening, going, She goes, "You sound like you want to say something. What is it you want to say?" I was like, "Why are you throwing yourself into all these things?" I'm like, "What is it?" She was anxious, and I'm like, "But why are you throwing yourself into all these things? What is it that you like to do?" And it took a little bit of conversation, but then she's like, "I really like painting," which is just not throwing yourself into all those other things. It's centering, and it's going, "That's what fills my cup, is painting." And she was kind of reminiscing, like, "I used to like getting up and going on my balcony early in the morning and painting, and that really filled me up." And I'm like, "Then go paint." Like,
Mhm.
you find what you love, what lights you up, like LT said, and just do that. Don't worry about anything else. Just do that. And I promise you that that's going to unfold into all the other good things coming. Because if
That's
you
right.
don't fill your cup, you get resentful, you get anxious, you feel like you're running out of time to do the things you love. Just
Mhm.
do the things you love, and it'll all work out.
Just this week that joined a crochet club, which I thought was wonderful because it's something that she loves to do. They not only work on projects for themselves that they personally do, but they also do little projects that they give back, like little baby blankets or baby hats or something like that. But to me, it's such a wonderful activity because you're getting the fellowship with other women, you're keeping
Right.
your busy, and then you have a product that you actually can see come into
Yeah.
fruition. So I love projects like that. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's all, all of our schedules are different, but you have the power over your schedule. If your kids are overscheduled, then you are overscheduled. So
Mhm.
you can cut back on things. Your kids don't have to go into 3 different sports. That's not, unless you feel like you have an Olympic athlete on your hands, there is no reason for that. They need to have downtime just like we do.
Yeah.
There's just things that you can look at your life and say, it doesn't have to be this frenzied and this hectic. You
No.
are the engine, whether you believe it or not, you are. You
Mhm.
are making these constructs. And so when you realize that, you realize that you can take control of certain elements.
Mhm.
And that is going to help you in everything that you do, in your mindset regarding everything, your work, your kids, everything in your life, your relationships. And a lot of times that starts with your food. It starts
Mhm.
when you take control of your food. And when you do that, then I always tell people it's like a domino effect, and you start to take control, like, well, if I can take control of this, I can take control of that. And then before you know it, you have built a life that is structured the way that you want it to be. And
That's it.
you're running your life instead of your life running you.
And you're going to feel so much better about it, even if you still have a bulk of your weight to lose. And I know
Yeah.
that happened with me. I was doing that just several months into this. I still had a bulk of my weight to lose, but everything was better. And
Right.
it just continued to get even better as I went forward.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly. And that's, so it's taking that step, even though it's taking that step to get out of overwhelm,
Yes.
Yes.
because you can feel so overwhelmed that you're like, I don't even know where to start. And there's no way I could start with my food. You're just like,
Mhm.
I don't know. But when you have help and you have support, and you can take control of your food and really start to feel amazing again, then that it just changes everything. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for everyone who joined in today. And we always go back and look at the comments. So if you're watching this on the replay, then we will go back and look at that as well. I hope this was helpful and inspiring to you and made you think outside the box about different things that you could do to manage this time of year. And if you are interested in the Plant Power Revolution program, please reach out to me or even to LT and Joanne, and they will be happy to answer your questions and guide you. So as we all go into this time, there is, even though there's a sense of stress, there's always a sense of excitement. It really is a time where we all feel like it's a good time for renewal. So think about how you can incorporate that into your life, and have an amazing weekend. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.